Hi, everybody. This is Panfurware LLC. Let that sink in with Jenna.
Thank you, Eric. That's fabulous. So we're just going to do some quick introductions. I'll start it off, ladies first and all. My name's Judy Garland. I'm the owner of JA Creatives Consulting, and I also work for Panfurware LLC as a sync agent and general source of mischief and mayhem. So we're going to be talking to Jenna this evening. Jenna, we're going to pop over you to Anthony to let him do his intro, then Eric, and then we'll get back to you for you to give us a full overview of exactly.
Yep. This is Anthony Ferrier here, owner of Panfurware LLC Music Publishing and Placement. We pivoted from IT consulting a couple of years back, and we're having a blast signing songwriters, making music, helping them promote and get their royalties. Thank y'all for visiting.
Yeah, my name is Eric Zickler. I am the sync licensing representative for Panfurware LLC, and I'm excited for tonight. This is going to be a very fun conversation.
You're absolutely right there, sir. Jenna, I'd love to give you the whole Jimmy Fallon intro, but this is Clubhouse, and everybody introduces themselves in every room, so I'm going to let you hit the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So I am an R&B singer and songwriter from Toronto, Canada. I'm a graduate of the Berkeley College of Music. I've been doing this for quite some time now. I'm currently working on my 5th album, which is pretty crazy. So I have some brand new music coming in the new year. And I actually just also released my first ever original Christmas song. It's called My Christmas Wish. So pretty stoked about that. And yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So we had a little conversation earlier this week just to get a little know-how of each other and to give you an overview of how this is done.
Yeah.
And I was happy to share with you that Anthony and Eric are much more regimented and have their questions that they ask, and I just go by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, no worries.
So I was looking at some of the information in your bio, and I wanted to ask you, what is your earliest and most vivid musical memory that you can kind of source back to that was the beginning of your desire to be a professional musician?
Yeah, I was always singing as a child. I just remember that being a huge part of my life, whether it was, the wheels on the bus go round and round, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star or whatever, but I was just always singing. I would sing all the time with my mom, especially in the car. That was just something that we did together, or the radio would be on and I would be singing along. But I think like one of the first memories I have, and I think this is also just enhanced by like my mom retelling the story. But so my childhood home, we had this big like window that had like a windowsill on it, and I guess I like to use that as kind of my stage. And I think I was like 3 years old, and I just got up on the windowsill, and my mom was in the kitchen, and I just started singing Stevie Wonder's like For Your Love I Would Do Anything. And I think that kind of shocked my mom, just because she kind of heard me like singing, the typical stuff you sing as a kid, but to get up and just sing Stevie Wonder, I think she was just like kind of in shock at that point. And I think for her, that was like the first time that she realized like, oh, she like could be a singer. And I think for me, that was like a big realization point for me as well. And then of course, like my dad came home later from work, and my mom asked me to sing for him, and of course at that point I wouldn't do it, but
Poor dad, he got the fuzzy and the lollipop.
I know.
Now in your bio it says here that you have a musical family. were your parents professional musicians or were they instrumentalists? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so like everybody in my family just like loves music. Like my mom's a good singer, but like she never did it professionally. My dad also is a drummer. Again, never really did it professionally, but did play in bands. But his whole side of the family is actually in the music industry. Like my grandmother is a classical pianist. My grandfather, as well, was just like heavily involved in the music industry. And from there, you know, there's like songwriters in my family and all of that. But a lot of that comes from like my dad's side of the family.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you didn't get the usual backlash, I'm assuming, from your family in regards to going out and doing it professionally.
Yeah, they were very, very supportive. So I was definitely lucky on that front.
Okay. Tell us about getting into Berkeley and studying there.
Yeah. So, I mean, as soon as I heard about Berkeley, I just knew I wanted to go there. That was my dream school. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of amazing music schools around the world, but I think what really attracted me to Berkeley is just really the versatility and where you can, you know, study various types of music. And, you know, it's like one of the best schools for like contemporary music, and that was like really, really attractive to me, where I could kind of do everything. And I had the chance to go and visit before I actually, you know, like auditioned. And when I went, I just like immediately felt like, okay, this is where I need to go. So it was a really amazing experience because it's not like a huge school. So like your classrooms are relatively small. So you like really get to know your professor. I learned probably just as much outside of the classroom as I did like in the classroom, just with like jamming and like getting to know, you know, the other students. And, you know, everybody's coming from different backgrounds and different parts of the world. And that was really, really cool. And it's just like, it was really just a well-rounded education. But I also really got to explore myself like as an artist, and I think that's really where I started to develop myself as an artist and like my songwriting and that type of thing.
Very cool. So, is it outrageous for me to have images of the TV show Fame going through my head?
Not entirely. I mean, like really, yeah, there could literally just be jam sessions that would start like in the hallway, or like I remember even sometimes in the cafeteria, like someone would start like banging on a table or hitting like cutlery together, and then it would just break out into like a full-on, you know, music session. So you're not wrong for that. It would happen sometimes.
Well, just the cafeteria scene that you just painted, I'm just like, for all the times I got smacked around because I was playing with my utensils at the dining room table, I'm like, I should have been eating every meal there. I would have been fine.
Yeah. No, it was encouraged. So
very cool. Your idols, you have them listed as Michael Jackson,
mm-hmm.
Stevie Wonder, who you already mentioned,
mm-hmm.
Ella Fitzgerald, and Judy Garland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but it seems to me that Judy Garland kind of sticks out a little bit.
Yeah.
In that little group.
So Judy Garland was probably, I mean, one of the first, for sure, people that like really inspired me to sing. So when I was a kid, like I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and it was really important to them to kind of like expose me to different music and musical artists. And one thing that like my grandparents, particularly on my dad's side, would do is like show me like the old movies and like these old, you know, artists and whatnot. And I just remember seeing like the original Wizard of Oz for the first time and just being completely blown away by Judy Garland's performance. And then just learning about like her history and backstory and like what happened to her with her career and everything. I think like for me, I was just so blown away by like everything that she went through. But like every time she was on the stage, like she completely just gave it her all. There's also something that's really attractive to me with like where you can like feel the pain when somebody is like singing a song. And to me, like just anytime I'm hearing her sing, like I just feel her no matter what. Like I just feel like she's just giving her absolute all. Like her voice is coming like all the way through from her toes out her mouth. So I just like, that's something that I think has really inspired me. So yeah. And I mean, and she obviously has an incredible voice, but I think beyond that, just she really touches me when I hear her sing.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to me because seeing Judy Garland and Ella Fitzgerald right next to each other kind of seems like two different sides of the jazz coin in my experience.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask, and it makes it even more interesting to hear you say about feeling all kinds of emotion from Judy Garland's performances, where that would be a box I would check off for Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very interesting to hear you say that. So
yeah.
what do you think, maybe stylistically or musically, you would say quality wise between those two singers makes them both so emotive, but for most people like myself, still seeing them as kind of opposites?
Well, I think honestly, like it goes for really any of the people that I would say like have been inspirations to me, like even Stevie Wonder and even like Michael Jackson. Obviously, like their styles are different, or like even in different times, where, you know, Ella is a different time period than Michael Jackson. But just like I said, there's intention behind their craft, and when they sing, it's just like complete emotion. You just feel them entirely, like it completely captivates you. And I think that's something for me that I aspire to do, like with my music and when I sing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
One of the things that I noticed with your bio is that you perform regularly. And you're actually one of the few artists that we have, and, you know, Anthony, correct me on this, but you're one of the few people we have that is a performer. A lot of other people are basically, you know, studio dogs, and they're just in there creating and doing the Mad Hatter kind of thing in the studio, like they're Pink Floyd. So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about that.
Sure.
One being, how does it feel for you between the stage and the studio?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm gonna say that like the stage is just always number one for me. I do enjoy the creative process, but it's just something about being on the stage where that's like kind of the ultimate for me, where I can. That's where like everything I've done behind the scenes, basically the fruit of the labor is just because like that's how like I can actually see people and connect with people.
Right.
But yeah, so, and it's like I'm in another world, like it's like a different zone when I'm on the stage. Like sometimes I'll get off the stage and I won't even really like remember what happened. It's like I'm in a different universe. But yeah, and then when I'm like creating in the studio, like that's really fun. Although I do enjoy more like collaborating with people versus like just writing or creating on my own, although I do that. But I think like it's really fun, especially to like go from nothing and create something out of nothing, create something from scratch. That's really, really fun. And then just kind of seeing the process and, you know, yeah.
So, of course, I have to ask you, as a springboard from that, given the last 18 months, almost 2 years now, what was the shutdown and everything like for you, and have you been able to get back to performing?
Yeah, so, I mean, it was crazy because when the shutdown happened, I was actually in Nashville and I was recording my next project. And I honestly thought I was going to get stuck in Nashville, which isn't such a bad thing. Yeah, so that was really hard because like I was literally in the middle of recording my project, and then I had to like book it back home so I didn't, get stuck in the U.S. So that was like really hard for me initially, but then, I realized, okay, well, there's other ways that I can make the most of this. And so, I was doing like the Instagram and Facebook Live, and I spent a lot of time being creative and writing. I wrote a ton of music. I even got a better like recording setup at home and learning that just so I could be able to do that myself. So I just like tried to make the most out of it. Of course, there was like really, really rough days and really missing like performing live in front of people. But yeah, I just recently, I would say probably the last couple months, started performing live again. Recently, like I had a residency where I was performing every Saturday the past couple of months, and that was really, really fun. And then so we'll see what happens in the new year. But yeah, it's definitely nice to be back to that.
It sounds so great that you were making the situation a real opportunity. I mean,
not every day was easy like that, but
no, of course not. But I mean, believe me, there are plenty of people I know that can recite to you everything that's been on Netflix for the last 2 years. Do it very convincingly. So I'm always thrilled to talk to other people who really took on the challenge to learn something or to divert their energies into something new. Mm-hmm. Because it really speaks to the spirit of the individual to be able to harness that energy and take it into another direction. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So with that, how much touring do you see yourself doing this year?
Well, I was hoping for quite a bit, but now I'm not so sure what's going to happen. I don't know. Here we're starting to get restrictions again, unfortunately, just because of the new variant. But I'm hoping that this passes quickly and I'll be able to do that. I'm hoping by the summer it would be amazing to do some festivals again. So I really don't have an idea right now, but staying hopeful.
Staying hopeful for you. Fingers crossed. So how long has it been that you've been in the sync world? Do you have any placements that you'd like to brag about?
Honestly, it's kind of new for me. It's been probably a couple years. I think I really started to focus on it more just with COVID because I had like the chance to really like sit down and dive deeper into like what that means. And so yeah, I don't actually have any specific like sync placements I can talk about as of yet, but hopefully coming soon.
We are working on that. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with your creation process, do you have it in your mind? Do you differentiate, in other words, between music that you create for your albums and your fans and etc., and music that you make just simply for sync? Or do you see them as one and the same?
Yeah, I think I see them as one and the same. I think what happens is I'm just creating, and then as the song is coming together, that's when I start to think like, okay, I want this for my project, or I'm like, this would be really great in a movie, or so I don't think I ever really sit down and decide before I make a song. It just kind of happens as it goes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So with that, Anthony, Eric, do you guys want to kick in your 2 cents?
Well, I like the part about whether Jenna's a studio person or performer. Jenna, you are one of our hybrids here because you feel comfortable performing, you feel comfortable producing, arranging, and writing. And I see a connection between Judy Garland and Ella Fitzgerald because they're both performers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just I've watched your Instagram stories, and I've watched your performances, and it makes a connection for me because, like you said, Garland performed, you know, was Gervais and other places. As she got older, she still was performing, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I picture her singing full mouth, hands out and open.
Yeah.
You know, don't let nobody know I be watching Judy Garland, but I've seen her.
Yeah.
So I understand. And then I also understand the Ella Fitzgerald side where the jazz comfortableness of singing technically
Mm-hmm.
complex music. You know, I hear that in your music. So I
Well, thank
definitely hear
you.
both. Yeah, no, we're glad to have.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and my thoughts pretty much reflect Anthony's. It is because not everybody is going to be really good in the studio and really good on stage. Some are made better for one than the other, but I think it is really good to that you are somebody who can excel in both. Because I think the studio requires a certain limit of perfection. I think this when you're in the studio, every note, every semitone has to be perfect. Everything has to be exactly on beat, and I mean it also carries along from your influences that there's a little bit of a perfectionist kind of mentality that would carry on from uh, jazz music especially that would carry on to performing as well. So I think it's actually really amazing that you're able uh, to be to excel in both these kind of worlds.
Well, thank you. I would agree, though. It's like it's a different type of focus for each one. Whereas, like, I would say that probably, like Eric, you're saying in the studio, it's a little more like note by note, like it's a little more zoomed in onto like what you're doing. Whereas performing, I would say, is wider, where it's like the overall picture, and it's just it's a different type of focus.